We're set? Okay, we're going to just get started. Before I start doing the program, I just want to make some acknowledgments to some of these folks here that you see here. They're with the Windy City Hometown.com. That's our radio station. Once a month, I do a show with them, Paranormal Radio. They also do a whole bunch of other shows there, too. Meet the Chicago Historians, Dawn of Sports, Chicago Junction, all about Chicago history and Chicago railroading and stuff. So they do a lot of varied programming there. I haven't been doing my show. The last show I did was in December because I had an accident. I'm recuperating from that, so I haven't been able to get up there. So we're taping this one. So this is actually the first broadcast I've done in a few months. So I'm happy about that. Mr. John DeVita, gentleman right here, his assistant, Mr. Bob Holmes, Mr. John Shakanda, do all this work. They set this up. I don't know if you heard them. They've been here since 2 o'clock. Yeah, there's a little bit of preparing and stuff you have to do for this. And this is going to go to Comcast, is it?
Right.
We're going to go to Comcast with this, so we'll be on TV. So if you want to come up and ask a question or something, we'll get you on. You'll be on the air. You'll be on TV on Comcast. Yeah. And then also too, my brother Ray, sitting back in the corner there with the white shirt. Ray is the one. If it wasn't for Ray driving me here, that's it. This would be over with. He's been fantastic since I've had this happen. He's been carting me around all over and everything. He works all day himself, and then he comes and picks me up and takes me right here. So thank you, Ray. I couldn't ask for a better brother. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. What we're going to do here is try to give you 3,000 years of history in an hour. That's how that's going to work. So these are my notes. In case you're wondering, this is 3,000 years of history. These are notes. It's all on one sheet. What I wanted to do, what I got the idea for this program was about the Egyptians and about the Book of the Dead, because we all watch the movies. We've all seen what Hollywood does to this and that, and they're entertaining, and I watch them too, but it's not the real stuff. Just like in paranormal investigating, I suppose I should introduce myself with that. What I really do is paranormal investigate. This show won't be paranormal, so to speak, with ghosts and hauntings, although we've done these presentations with those before. But that's kind of what I do. I don't do it for a living, because you don't make a living doing this. But it's a fun thing that you do. It's nice to turn like a hobby thing into something that you enjoy and to have the information to share with other people. I got the idea for this, like I said, because the Egyptians were very, very much involved with the supernatural, with ghosts, with hauntings. So many of the things that we have now that filter down to us are things that stemmed from 3,000 years ago, from this ancient culture. The super intelligent people that they were onto a lot of things. And then, of course, we all know what happened through history. They became a conquered people through Greece and through Rome, and then the Dark Ages in Europe. So a lot of their knowledge and their learning got lost. And we're still learning about them. There's many things we still don't know about them. So I just wanted to do that, to maybe shed a little light onto who these people were, what you may have seen, what your impression of them is, and then maybe what some of the real deal stuff is that with the Egyptian people and with their culture, the ancient Egyptians we're talking about now. These people, they were people just like everyone else's. They lived, worked, had their homes, they enjoyed their families, they enjoyed children, they enjoyed their pets. They loved pets. The ancient Egyptians loved pets. Cats were very big. They loved cats. They loved dogs. And baboons. Baboons were very interesting pets for Egyptian. Every Egyptian household liked to have a baboon, and they would actually train them to do little household tasks and things. So they were really super with that. Bastet, this little cat here, this was a cat goddess. The cats are actually worshipped in Egypt, so that's why cats were really big. Cats are somewhat mysterious in themselves, just like the Egyptian people were. Bastet was the goddess of fertility, female fertility. Just about every town, every city in Egypt had a small shrine or a monument to Bastet. What are you pointing at me for? What did I do?
Let's hold it steady for me.
Oh!
Close up.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so Bastet was the Egyptians and their cats. They loved them. What did these people do for a living? They did just like we do. They went to work, they learned trades, they paid their bills, they paid their taxes, and they lived. Trades and things, what they did, you did basically what your father did. If your father was a bricklayer, you learned the bricklaying trade. If your father was a carpenter, that's what you did. Some of the industries in Egypt were brick making, carpentry, wig making. Wig making was a big thing. They all wore wigs in Egypt. Everyone shaved their heads. They all wore wigs. Some women would keep their own hair and have their own hair dressed, but 99.9% of the people wore wigs and had them braided, had them dressed in that because of the hot climate and that. Yeah, they all did this. So wig making was a big industry in the ancient Egypt. Weaving, cloth, linen. Linen was their thing. Linen was kind of the only cloth known to them. And then, of course, later on through trade and stuff, they would bring silk in and they would have that. Women, not too much. Women's roles were pretty well set and defined. Women did not learn a trade. You learned homemaking. You learned child rearing. You learned this from your mother. You were taught at home. Boys learned their father's trade. And so that was kind of it. What your father did, you did. The only exceptions for women would have been a professional mourner, which I'll talk a little bit about that. These were people that were hired to mourn the dead. They would have like when you went out with a bang, and you would have these mourners, as many as you could afford, and they were professional criers, and they would just cry for the dead and wail and sing songs and hymns and things like this, and that's what they did. And this would be women. This would be an occupation that they did. Everything else would have been home-centered for women. Pleasing your husband, making your husband happy, running the home, taking care of the children. That would have been it for women. Men had a little more options to it, like I said, learning the trade. The exception to this rule would have been if a boy showed a little bit of intelligence above being a common laborer or a farmer or bricklayer or something like that, and showed some aptitude for learning, he could go on to become a scribe. And a scribe would learn to read and write the hieroglyphics. It took 10 years to do this. Usually it was a young boy of maybe 10 years old. It would be a very rigid program, very strict learning how to do this. It took 10 years to learn to read and write hieroglyphics. But when you got done with this, it was like name your price. This was like a nuclear physicist or something. This was a very, very important position. There was no system of public education in ancient Egypt, so children didn't go to school to learn to read and write. So very, very few people, limited, learned to read and write. Many times even the pharaoh himself could not read and write, but he had scribes around him that did. 99% of their reading and writing was religious text. It was the Book of the Dead, which we're going to talk a little bit more details about the Book of the Dead. We'll spell some of those mysteries about that, so you maybe have a little bit of understanding about this mysterious Book of the Dead, which isn't all that mysterious once you understand it. So that's kind of it with the Egyptian culture, what they did. As far as paying, like I say, paying their taxes and earning money, if you were farmers, farming and agriculture, the big thing in Egypt, it was the soul of the empire. Every year, the Nile god Hapi would flood the Nile. The Nile overflows. Every year it does this. It's done this since the beginning of time and still does it to this day. As the water recedes back into the Nile, it deposits all this nice, black, rich silt and dirt, and that's where your farming is. When we all cotton on the labels of your bed linens, sheets, and shirts and things like this, it's the finest cotton that the world has to offer, although it wasn't known to the ancient world. Cotton came from the New World. The Egyptians grew flax for linen. That was their big thing they did. Everyone wore linen, bleached white or unbleached. That was about it. So you didn't put much color in your clothing except for jewelry. They were very big on jewelry. They loved their jewelry. So they would put color in that, and makeup. Eye makeup, men and women, eye makeup in that. Boys would wear earrings up until about 11 years of age. After that, the earrings came out, and they were now men. They no longer wore earrings. That was it. But girls kept up with their jewelry. And what was going? Okay, he was looking at me like I did something wrong. Okay, all right. That was it. So that's just a little bit about that. What you would do then after this Nile flooding and you farmed and you planted your crop, your wheat or your flax or whatever you did, because like I say, the farming was the backbone of the empire. That was, the industry of Egypt, the main thing. Then you would go, after the crops got started, and you could go and you could work on the monuments. You could work on temples, you could go work on the pyramids when the pyramids were being built, and this was the way you paid your taxes through your labor. We've all seen these movies where you have these thousands and thousands of slaves hauling the blocks and doing this. It would have been almost impossible to build those pyramids with the people they would have needed to do it with. Would have taken the entire population of the world at that time to build those. To this day, we don't know that much exactly how they built the pyramids. There's a few theories about that, and that would be a whole other program talking about the pyramids alone, about that construction. But that's just one way of the way they kept their economy going. You had government officials, usually appointed. They were usually from the upper classes, the middle class and upper class, governors, viziers that would carry out the pharaoh's wishes, with the pharaoh being at the top. Whatever he said went. That was it. Pharaoh was the powerful man. When you spoke to the pharaoh, you didn't even look at him. You put your head down and you spoke with him. A lot of times they would prostrate themselves and just lay down on the floor and talk. And you would report to him and tell him what's what. If he agreed with what you were doing, fine. If he didn't, you changed it to what he wanted. He was the rule of thumb. That was it. Okay, so that's just a little bit about life in ancient Egypt. Anybody have anytime you got any questions or anything, just raise your hand and just jump right in here, and then we'll get you on the radio. Yeah.
How did they shave their heads? You said they
Barbering was another industry. They shaved not only their heads, they shaved all their body hair, everything. They did this. And barbering was a big industry. The reason they did this was for lice. You live in this hot, dry, dusty, dirty climate, and they did this for lice and for sanitation. They were very clean people. And so you shaved everything on your body. And that's why they wore wigs, because wigs were much easier to wash clean, dress, braid, than keeping your own hair.
And they were able to make razors?
Yes, they did. They had razors. They were very skilled. Yeah, they were very skilled in tool making. They had razors. They had mirrors. They had everything we have now. Soap making. They made beer and wine were the chief drinks, even for children. Beer and wine everyone drank, and of course water.
Well, they were also great doctors. And
Yes, they were.
surgeons.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of amazing natural remedies. I believe onions were very much used in their medical field.
Yes,
and honey. And
a good deal of their medicine also dealt not only so much with herbs and remedies and stuff, but it dealt with magic. With magic, they would write prescriptions out on papyrus, and not only did you eat the herbal prescription, you also ate the papyrus that it was written on. And by putting this in, it worked faster. This was their theory. This was their believing. By eating the prescription, it works faster if it's on your inside than your outside. As skilled as the Egyptians were with embalming and with the body and all this, a good deal of their anatomy and their doctoring dealt on superstitions and magic. Extremely superstitious people. Yeah. Okay, I kind of covered that. What I want to tell you now about is just a little bit about the gods. If we start talking about gods of Egypt, there are more gods in Egypt than there are stars in the heavens. Some of the main gods, of course, would be Ra, sun god. Amun-Ra, Ra would be one of your main gods. And then you have Isis and his wife. Well, Isis would be the wife, and Osiris would be the god of the underworld, the god of the dead. And he was a main guy. Most pictures and images we have of Osiris, his bottom part of his body is bound like a mummy. His legs are wrapped like a mummy. He wears the bishop's mitre, which would be this little hat here, like a modern-day bishop would wear. He always wears this, and his skin is green. The green would signify he's something dead. He's dead, so his body is not in the best of shape, but it's preserved. He's got this green color to him, and that's how he is. And he's the god of the underworld. Osiris, one of the legends of Osiris, I'll just tell you, one is Osiris and Isis had a son. Their son was Horus. That's this fella here. Horus takes the form of the bird, the hawk, or he also takes a human form. When he's in the Book of the Dead, he takes a human form where he has the hawk's head, he has the disc crown, and then he has the human body. So Horus can change form whenever he chooses to do. He can become a bird when he needs to fly. He can become a human form when he needs to walk. He has that power to do that. And Horus was the son of Isis and Osiris. One day, Horus was making his rounds, flying through Egypt, and he happened to see his mother Isis weeping over the sarcophagus of Osiris. So he naturally flies down to inquire, what are you crying about, mother? What's going on? And she says, your father is dead. Your father's been killed. What happened? The evil god Sebek, the crocodile god, came out of the Nile and decided he wanted to take over Osiris's job. So what he did is he chopped Osiris up, scattered him throughout Egypt. All his pieces were scattered throughout Egypt. So Horus is a superhero. He says, I'll save the day. He flies all throughout Egypt. He gathers the pieces up of his father, brings them to the sarcophagus. Isis, having great magic power and great powers herself, and Horus, between the two of them, they said the prayers and the enchantments that they needed to do to resurrect Osiris and get him back together and bring him back as the god that he was. And then Horus goes on to battle the evil god Sebek and drives him back into the Nile where he belongs. So Horus becomes kind of a cult hero of his own, in his own right. You had a lot of worship. A lot of people in Egypt worshipped Horus in and of himself. We talked a little bit about Bastet, who was the cat god. Anubis here. We'll talk about Anubis when we come to the Book of the Dead, because he's real important in the book. Horus and Anubis are very important in the Book of the Dead when you get to the next world. Anubis is the god of the dead. Horus is the god of the son of Isis and Osiris is the god of the underworld. So Osiris is the god of the world that you're going to, where the dead are. Anubis is the god of the dead. He helps you out. Just a little bit about that. Now, the mummification process. Egyptians, so to speak, lived to die. This was their thing. Life here on earth was good. They enjoyed their life here. They enjoyed their festival days. They enjoyed their families. They enjoyed their pets. They enjoyed their market. They liked buying things. They liked their jewelry. Just everything like we do too. They're very materialistic people. They liked having things, what life could afford them, and they liked that. But to them, the whole thing you were living for was to continue this in the next world. You wanted this to continue on. On death, you didn't want this to end. You wanted to get to the field of reeds, the Elysian fields. This was paradise. This was their version of paradise, and that's what you aspired to do. The sure way you did this is by owning the Book of the Dead, owning a copy of the Book of the Dead. And now you say, all right, well, if I own this copy of the Book of the Dead and I go on into the next world and I have this, but I can't read it, what good does this do me? If I can't read it, what does it? This is where the god Anubis comes in. Anubis helps you. He reads this, he tells you what to say, what spells you need to do, and he guides you through the next world. So you're helped tremendously in the next world when you get there. The mummification process took a tremendous amount of time. There's a company that still does this in California. Where else? If you want to be mummified, it's about $30,000, and they will do this for you by the old process, wrapping with the linen, putting the charms in the linen, the whole natron process, everything that they did. Earliest forms of embalming and mummification were very simple. You died, your body was buried in the sand, and for some reason, we don't know why, but early on, they buried them in a crouched position, sitting with their knees almost into their chins. And the natural climate in Egypt dried your body out, and you were mummified, and that was it. But then gradually, little by little, they evolved this into an art. First, it was reserved for Pharaoh, for the royalty and for the Pharaoh, and then gradually it trickled down to the classes, to the point where almost everybody, even the poor, had some degree of mummification, even if it was nothing more than maybe coating the body with a resin to preserve it, that kind of thing. Depending on your pocketbook and what you wanted, what you could afford, were the degrees of mummification. Just like people today, prearranged funerals, you go and you buy your casket, you do your funeral, you do your flowers ahead of time, prearrangements. This is nothing new. This is 3,000 years ago. This was done in Egypt. You went to go see the embalmer. The embalmer showed you models of the mummy, models of the sarcophagus that he had there, and what you wanted. And you could do this on installment payments and that type of thing, and that's the way it worked. That's how it was done. So, okay, you've had your life now, you've enjoyed your life here on this earth, and it's time now you've died. What happens to you? You go to the embalmer, and you're left entirely in the embalmer's hands. It takes about 70 days. So it's about 70 days before you're buried. Your body is in natron. It's dipped in salts and preservatives. The whole idea is the body has to be kept from decaying. If your body decays, it can't resurrect in the next world, when you get into the next world. So it can't decay. Your inner organs are all removed except for your heart. The heart to the Egyptians was the soul of the body, was the soul and the mind of the body. So the heart had to remain in the mummy. It stayed with you. But you did have this. You had a heart scarab. This represents your heart in the next world. You could take this if you want and just pass them around and look at them. Want that? There's a bigger one, a smaller one. There again, everything went by what you could afford. Till you get down to the real cheap stuff like these I have around my neck. These are like the economy heart scarabs. These would be the little ones. Your body would be mummified, and on top of your wrapped and mummified body, that would be laid. This is very important because you need this in the next world. We'll talk a little bit about that. So your body goes through this long process of mummification. It's in natron. Chemicals are added to it. Prayers are said. Every day this is done. It's a 70-day process to embalm the body properly. Your inner organs are taken out, your lungs, intestines. That's all embalmed separately and put in jars to later on be added into the body when it's resurrected. And then that's it. Your body is... Yes?
The hieroglyphics on the back, was that pertinent to the individual, or was that just...
It could be an individualistic thing. 9 times out of 10 it was just general, and all it said is, this is my heart, this is my soul, may this weigh well on the scales of justice and take me to the next world. Simple like that. Sometimes small prayers, small enchantments, that's basically all it said. Nothing too much to it, yeah. But this is very important because, like I said, your heart is left in the body. It doesn't come out of the body. It stays there. But this represents your heart in the next world. Okay, so now you're mummified, you're wrapped up, and you're entombed. A very elaborate funeral, and this is where the professional mourners come in. You go out with a bang. You have a big funeral procession depending on how much you can afford, and you actually hire mourners, and these mourners were usually women that would wail and weep and sing and mourn and all this. So you knew someone died, and you knew they were being buried. It was a sad thing to them, but yet it also was a glad thing because they aspired to go on to the next world. This was something, like I say, they almost lived to die, so to speak. That was something that they wanted. In the next world, we have this another misconception we have is of the Egyptians taking everything with them that they would need in the next world. Food, clothing, all this stuff. Well, you did take some, but it would be impractical to think that you're going to carry enough of food and clothing and things in your tomb to last you through eternity. This didn't happen. So what you would do is you would have enough there to hold you over until you could start producing and manufacturing for yourself. And what these involved were little statues called shapti or ushapti. And there again, depending on your degree of wealth, these could be just small little painted clay statues. Sometimes they were statues painted blue or green, lapis, sometimes out of a precious metal. Nine out of 10 times that are just little simple little clay statues. And what these did is they became animated and they worked for you in the next life. Because in your next life, you don't want to work. You want to enjoy your next life. You don't want to do this. You don't want to farm. You don't want to weave to make clothing. You don't want to cook. You don't want to do your housekeeping. So you had all these little figures, and they would become animated, and they would do your bidding and your work, everything that you needed. The more of them that you had, the better for you. They did more work for you. Pharaoh's tombs sometimes contained 400, 500, 600 of these little figures to do everything for the pharaoh. So, like I say, you didn't carry enough of food with you to last you through eternity. You carried enough just until you got your shopti going so they could start producing for you. That's how this all worked. Okay, the Book of the Dead. This is the Book of the Dead. Every time I see one of these movies, when I watch them, we've all seen them. You see all these people running around to get the Book of the Dead, and it's going from person to person, and people are killing themselves, and this book resurrects the dead and has special powers and all this. Not true. Book of the Dead is not this rare book where there's only one. Every time I would see this, and I'd see these people doing this, when I'd see these mummy movies, I think, why don't they just go to the bookstore and buy one? You know, they're available. You know, why are you doing this for? Why are you going through all this? But there again, it's what Hollywood. You know, and I watch those too. It's entertaining. Just like with paranormal, like with ghost hunting and that. If you watch these shows and this, it's not the way an actual ghost hunt goes, the way research goes. But they're entertaining, and I watch them too. The Book of the Dead. This is your guide through the next life. For about the first 3,000 years of history, this was the Bible. This was the most important book in history. And the unfortunate thing about it, like it says, most people couldn't read it. It's something that you wanted. You really wanted this. It was expensive. It was custom made, written by hand, of course. The printing press was still a few thousand years away, so it was copied by hand. And depending on your degree of money that you had and wealth, it could be very colorfully illustrated, written nicely, your name inserted in it. A lot of times what they did is they would scribes and priests in the temples would write copies of the Book of the Dead, but just leave spaces and omit your name. And then on your death or when you purchased it, your name would be added in. And this would take you into the next world, so your name was in it. There are a few different versions of it out. I looked yesterday online. This one here, E.A. Wallace Budge. E.A. Wallace Budge was kind of the real-life Indiana Jones. This man was the keeper of the Egyptian and Assyrian antiquities for the British Museum for many, many years, the turn of the last century. And he did this. The only problem with this is the translation is over 100 years old, so it's kind of outdated. We found out more things about it now that we know Budge didn't get quite right, so we're still learning about Egyptology. So that's one rendition of it. This is a rendition of it. And this little pamphlet here is a rendition of it. These are very inexpensive. I looked online yesterday and I saw this copy. There was a used copy going for $1.99, so it's not that big of a deal. Historically, like you say, it's not a rare book at all. We have about 500 copies or parts of copies in museums now. The most famous being the one they call the Papyrus of Ani. Ani's papyrus is a 172-foot long scroll. Now, when we say a book in ancient days was not a book like we know it. It was a scroll. It was rolled, and you unrolled it that way, and you read it. And this was for many, many years until, I don't exactly know when books that the way we know them, page books came out, but for many, many years it was done on scrolls. And like I say, this was something you wanted with you. Having this Book of the Dead guaranteed you, hands down, guaranteed you your afterlife. Because this had all the spells, the enchantments, everything you needed to do, everything you needed to say to the gods, to talk to say the right thing, to correct things you did not do right in life, to say the little things you needed to say to pacify the gods, to allow you to go in. All this is in the Book of the Dead. Okay, so now your body is mummified and you're laying there, and the first person or deity you're going to encounter is this gentleman here, Anubis. Anubis is the jackal-headed god. He's the god of the dead. Anubis would come to you like this. When you're wrapped up as a mummy, he would come to you, and supposedly his voice was very resonant sounding, and he's very frightening. They would pick the jackal naturally as the god of the dead because the jackals and wild dogs always hung around the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. They would hang on the outskirts of town, and they'd be around the tombs and that kind of thing. So that's where they got the idea that them hanging around tombs, they must have some connection to the dead, so they made them a god. Him a god, I should say. And he awakens you. He awakens you so you can see him, and you know he's there, he's talking to you, but your body's not functioning yet because you're wrapped up, you're mummified, everything's been taken out, your organs are all mummified. So he goes and he gets your copy of the Book of the Dead, which hopefully you have with you, and he tells you what to do. And the first thing you're going to do is a spell to open your eyes. to get your eyes open. He reads the spell. Your eyes are open. The spell of opening your mouth. The spell of getting your tongue working so you can speak. Although some husbands didn't want their wives to do that. Even in the next life. There's an old joke about that. Yes?
Didn't they have a special tool that they would bury them with too, where they call it the opening of the mouth?
Yeah. The opening of the mouth. It would be wrapped in with the mummy, and the wrappings, the linen wrappings of the mummy would be many, many charms, amulets, tools, and things you would need in the next life. Many of these little trinkets and things would be buried with you, wrapped in the mummy itself. The first copies we know of the Book of the Dead, they were called the pyramid text, the coffin text, and then finally it came to the scroll version. The pyramid text was just actually written right on the walls of the pyramids. Problem with that was it wasn't complete. You can't write, a long book like this on the pyramid itself. So you'd have pieces of it and fragments of it, and also too on the insides of your coffin. So those would be the coffin text. You have pieces of the Book of the Dead, and then gradually that evolved itself and became a book completed, added to over the years, and elaborated on. So now we get our body functioning, we get our organs working in the body, our body is unwrapped, and we're standing there, and we are in the form that we took on earth. And there we are with Anubis. So now what do we do? It's a job. It takes a long time to do this. You don't just, this is not it. What you come to first are called the 21 portals of Osiris. And what these are is they're actual doorways into the next world. And at these doorways, you would encounter deities and gods that would not be the best of people you'd want to encounter, the best of gods that you wouldn't want to encounter. They had names like He Who Dances on Blood, He Who Has the Teeth of the Crocodile, He Who Hunts like the Hawk, He Who Has the Claws of the Lion. So these were terrifying creatures. And what you had to do is you had to come to them, and they would ask you questions. And they would say, okay, what did you do on earth? Did you cheat on your wife? And you would say, no, I did not cheat on my wife. I did not do that. But you know what? You're a very wonderful God. I've always admired you. I've always worshipped you. I've always paid homage to you. You pacified him. This is what you did. You wanted to pacify him. You wanted to butter these gods up like that. And then they would open the portal, and then you would go. You had 21 of these you had to go through to do this. And this is where Anubis would come in, because like I say, maybe you couldn't read, but Anubis would read it, and he would tell you, this is what you're going to say. You look it up. Here it is in this chapter of the Book of the Dead, and this is what you're going to say to him. This is what you're going to tell him and compliment him. And then you can actually get them working on your side with you. So, okay, we've gone through these 21 portals now. We've done this. We've gone through all of this. What happens now? Doesn't end here. Now we go through the Hall of Negative Confessions. We have 42 of these. And it's the same type of thing. These are the 42 negative confessions. And this is actually where the 10 Commandments come from in the Judeo-Christian Bible, because they're in there. Cheating, honor thy father, thy mother, all the, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not. And these are what you would be asked. Now, though, it kind of switches hands. Anubis kind of steps back. He has another job a little later on. You'll see him in the Hall of Justice. And Horus now escorts you. He escorts you through the negative confessions. So you meet these gods. And also, too, you have these other gods, like you say, that were not so nice. But because you said the right things and told them the nice things, and you really complimented them, buttered them up, they're actually working with you on your side now. At any time in this whole process, if you gave the wrong answer or you did the wrong thing, the portal would be closed, and that would be it, and it's over with. That's why the book was extremely important to have, because it told you the right thing to say, just what you needed to say and do. Yes?
Now, what happened to the poor unfortunate soul that lost his copy right before he dies?
The most horrible thing you could have happened, most horrible thing you could have happened to you is you did not get to go on to an everlasting life. That's where it ended, and that was it. And to the Egyptians, this was worse than death. Yeah, it was. This is something they really aspired to, and this was worse than death itself, to be able not to go on to eternity, to the eternity bond, because now your family would be there. Your wife would be there, your children, your family, and you're not. So, this is horrible. This is something you definitely did not want to have happen. And same thing too now. Horus would escort you. You come to the halls of the negative confession. Now there's a pattern here. First one was 21 doors. Now this one is 42 doors that we go through. And same thing. They would ask you questions. Did you cheat anyone in weights and measures on the scales? No, I did not. I never did cheat anyone like that. And even if you did, you could say the right thing that would kind of forgive it if you knew, like I say. That's why this is so important to have, because it tells you the right things to say, what you needed to say to get on. If you didn't have it, you could say the wrong thing very easily, and that's it. It's all over with.
It's spiritual teleprompter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it came down to, yeah. So you went through all this. You went through these 42 negative confessions and all this, and now what do we do after this? Now you're escorted by Horus into the Hall of Justice. the Hall of Osiris. There's Osiris seated, because he's the god of the underworld, and this is the sink or swim. This is it. You come to this after you've gone through all this process, all these questions, all these horrible gods and these other deities and everything you've encountered. You've gone through all this, and now you come to the Hall of Justice. And there's Anubis. Again, you meet him again. He appears back up there again, and he's there to assist you and help you. You come to the goddess Ma'at, the very lovely, beautiful goddess. She has her long hair done in ringlets. She wears a beautiful sheath dress, plumes in her hair. There's also a very bad god there, Amet. Amet is part crocodile, part lion, and part hippopotamus. And he's the devourer of hearts. And now this is where that little stone scarab, that's where this comes into play here. You have scales of justice. These are the scales of justice. So even though you've went through all of this process and everything, answering all these questions, talking with all these deities, confronting all these horrible creatures and monsters and everything in this nether world, this could be it right here. This could end it for you. Your heart, which is your scarab, is put on the scale, and it's weighed against a feather of Ma'at, against the goddess of Ma'at. It can't be light, but then it can't be heavy. It has to balance perfectly. If it balances perfectly, the door is open, and into the fields you go, and you've made it. If it doesn't, the god Amet devours your heart, and that's it. It's over with right there. So you could go through this whole process, and right at the end you could blow it, and that would be it. That's how this would work. Anybody have any questions? Anything about any of this so far? Yeah.
When Horus would assist you, would it be in the form of the bird or is the human?
Sometimes both, but in the netherworld, usually he walked you through it, because you'd be walking from portal to portal, from door to door. This was a journey. It was a long thing. This may take you a couple of years to do this. It was a long process, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you didn't just do this like in a day and then it was over with. It was a long thing. You went through a lot to get there. It was something you had to work for to do. So it was an involved process. And along the way, at any time, you could blow it just by not saying or doing the right thing. That was very important to have their assistance. And also, too, it was important to get the assistance of all these other gods by kind of buttering them up and saying things about them that you maybe didn't really mean, but just to pacify it and make them good. You basically wanted more on your side than against you, is what it came down to.
So wait, you're alive through all this process of going through the portals?
Well, you're not alive in the way we think it. You're resurrected. Yeah, you're resurrected, yeah. Was that it?
So when you don't make it through to the next portal, and you say that's it, because you said the wrong thing, what happens then? You just...
That's it. Your soul is just dissolved. That's it. It's no more. Your ba. That would be your ba. They have the ba and the ka. That would be your inner soul. It's just dissolved, and that's it, and you don't make it to the next world, to paradise. Yes?
What is the significance of the feather, and what is it being weighed against? Is
It's
it
something
your
that's-
sins or your...
Yes, it's weighed against your heart. Your heart has to be just. So even though you've gone through all these 21 portals, all through the negative confessions and all that, somewhere along the line, if you weren't telling the truth or whatever, if you didn't do it and your heart is weighed and you're not a just person, that would blow it. Yeah, that would blow it right there. So you could go through all this and then get to the end, and that would be the end of it.
Do you know where these beliefs originated from?
Yes, over time, over the years, over many, many years, one God would give you something else, that God would give you something else. A good deal of this was done over thousands of years. It didn't just happen, in one time. So it's a culture that took a long time, much like our faith. Judeo-Christian teachings and that kind of stuff, it's thousands of years old, It's a process. And some of the same mysteries that we have in our teachings, they had in theirs. There's actually a Holy Trinity of a Father, Son, and Spirit, this type of thing. So a lot of these things kind of carried over, I can't really say carried over into Christianity, but you find a lot of similarities in these ancient religions and in modern day religions that we have, in modern day texts. Our Bible, you have to remember that the Egyptians, or I should say not the Egyptians, but the Hebrew people spent many, many, many years, over 400 years, they were living in Egypt in slavery. So naturally, when you're living with another culture that closely, and that you're going to absorb some of their stuff and some of their ideas in that. So, these things would carry over into the Jewish religion and then gradually into the Christian religion and down the line like that. So a lot of the ideas you find are kind of similar but different, yeah. The idea of a paradise.
You had mentioned earlier about the little helpers that were going to help you in the
Yeah,
next
the
life.
Shaktis, yeah.
And you mentioned some of them were blue. Was that any significance, or just that was the
No,
minerals they had at that time?
depending on your degree of wealth. If you wanted them a little fancier, you had them colored blue, you had them made in precious, metals, like the Pharaoh. His would be the top of the line. His would be the best it could be, and the more of them that you had. The more you had, the better for you, because these were going to do all your work for you in the next life, so you didn't have to do this. They were going to take care of you. So the more you had, the better for you. You could command them. They would animate themselves, and they would do all your work. They'd do your farming. They'd do your clothing. They'd do your laundry. They'd cook for you. They would do everything for you, so you could just enjoy the next world, the next life. Yeah, kind of a nice thing. Yeah, you could use some now, huh? Yeah. Who couldn't? Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what we have about that. I just wanted to dispel some of that about anybody have a little bit of better understanding maybe of what the Book of the Dead was, not this real mysterious thing that everybody sees. Like I say, we have in museums now, we have about 500 copies or parts of copies. A very common thing they used to do, early excavators in the last century, now the Egyptian government is very, very protective of this, but they would find a scroll of the Book of the Dead, and they actually cut it up. Here you'd find a complete intact copy, and they would cut it up and they would sell pieces of the parchment. So that's why you'll find, like in the German Museum in Berlin or the British Museum, you find parts and pieces. You don't actually find the whole thing, with the one exception being the Papyrus of Ani. The Papyrus of Ani is one of the most complete and beautiful copies that we have. Ani was a scribe. He learned the hieroglyphics. He could read and he could write. He had a position in the government. Ani was actually in charge of the temples. Temple tributes he recorded. When people would pay things he was in charge of the temples. He decided what to do with the money. The money went to repair the temples, to fix statues of the gods, to pay the priesthood, to do whatever it was. This is what Ani did, and apparently he was very, very good at it. And he did this. He had a wife. His wife's name was Tutu, and we know of one daughter. I'm sure they had more than one child, but we know of one daughter that they had. And for all intents and purposes, they lived a very, very happy life. And Ani, working in the temples and working with the priesthood so closely, naturally became interested in the Book of the Dead. And he convinced his wife that they should have a copy of this. This would ensure their safe passage into the next life, and this would guarantee them their peace. Even for someone of wealth and of means like Ani, who had a position, it would cost about a half a year's salary to buy one of these. So it was an expensive thing to take on.
Seeing that the men were the breadwinners and the women were the keepers of the home, did the women require a book also?
No, the way it worked is if the wife died before the husband, her body was mummified, it went through the whole funerary process, and it's put there, and there she lays kind of like in a suspended animation. When her husband dies, he comes with the book, and that carries them both through the next. Now you say, well, what happens to everybody else that doesn't have the Book of the Dead? For the poor people, what you tried to do is you tried to bury yourself close to someone of wealth, close to some tomb of someone of means, with the intention that on their death, when they were entombed in there or not, they would maybe kind of drag you in and kind of take them with you through the journey just out of the goodness of their heart. This is what you hoped for. It wasn't guaranteed, but not being able to afford it and guarantee this and have this insurance, that was the best you could hope for, like that.
I'm almost afraid to ask, what if the husband died first? What would they do with the wife?
Husband dies first, the book goes with him, it's buried with him, then she's in there, and he'd greet the wife. He'd greet her with the book. He comes back.
Be allowed to die naturally?
Oh yeah, of course. No, she wasn't killed because he died. Oh no, nothing like that. No.
I thought that might be it.
Another misconception I think that people have is the idea of the slaves and everyone being killed so the secret of the tomb could be kept and all this. It didn't happen because it's very hard. I think Benjamin Franklin said it, the only way you keep a secret between three people is when two are dead. So it'd be very, very hard to keep these secrets. Yes, you had a question?
What if the husband dies first, has the book, doesn't make it through? What happens to the wife?
That's a good question. But it'd be waiting there for the wife because they know there's someone else coming, so it would be available to her. Yeah, that's why you'd have these gods that would do this. So they'd have a system of working these things out. Yeah. Now in the case of children, no, your children would be on their own with their husbands, their wives, that kind of thing like that. So they weren't included in this. This is strictly something reserved for husband and wife, and that would be it. Yeah. In the case of Ani, his wife Tutu died first. Yeah, Tutu was her name, and she passed away first. So Tutu was kind of put in this just a suspended state, and then a few years later, when Ani passed away, he joined her, and that was it. Yes.
What if you had a child that passed away before the parents?
Child would be buried in the tomb, as it was in the cases with the royal families. Their bodies would be mummified, they'd be placed in the tomb, and then they would be carried along with the parents. That kind of thing like that. Yeah. Okay, any other questions, anything on the Book of the Dead, anything? Yes?
What if a woman was unmarried, an adult, and what happens to her?
Never happened. The only time, the only time in a case in ancient Egypt where a woman would be unmarried was if she was a priestess or something in the temple where it would require her not being, and then it was guaranteed that you would go to the next world. But it was very rare to be not married. It just didn't exist. Because
Were their marriages prearranged?
not amongst the poor. The poor, no, but amongst the royals, yes. In cases, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In cases of the royal family with the pharaoh, many times it was incest. They married their sisters, they married their aunts, they married their, because not understanding genetics and DNA and this, they felt they were keeping the bloodline pure by doing this. Not understanding this, but they caused a tremendous amount of genetic defects and things and early deaths and that kind of thing like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Tutankhamun and what kind of happened to him with genetics and that kind of stuff like that. Okay, I think we've covered all of that. I did what I wanted to do there with the Book of the Dead, with that. With Egyptian magic, mummy, like I say, we don't have a whole lot of time to deal with a lot of that because it'd be a whole nother one of these programs. Tutankhamun, I want to talk a little bit about him because everybody knows, if you know anything about Egypt or Egyptology, it seems everyone has an interest in Tutankhamun. King Tut, to put a more, a little more in layman's terms, very insignificant pharaoh. He was not an important pharaoh at all. He had a very short reign. Teenaged. He died at 19 years of age. He's the product of, we believe, an incestuous relationship between his father, Akhenaten, and his sister, the father's sister. So it was Tut's aunt and his father were his parents. This is what we think. Another theory is that Nefertiti, beautiful Nefertiti that we see that bust of, she wears that round crown. Nefertiti was the head wife of Akhenaten, and they believe she may have been Tutankhamun's mother. We don't know this, though, because Nefertiti was considered a goddess, and by considered a goddess, she could have no connection with a mortal birth. So by her being a goddess, we know nothing of her parents, nothing of her before, because she's a goddess. By being a goddess, she couldn't have mortal parents, so that was all wiped out. So we don't know that. In any event, we know Tutankhamun had his problems. We know there were a lot of genetic defects. This is a bust of Tutankhamun. If you look at the head, it's almost like an alien from outer space. His skull is very elongated. This was amongst the Thutmose dynasty, this was a very, very common birth defect because they all married so close. Now, if Tut was a product of an incestuous relationship between his father and his father's sister, he'd have a lot of different things wrong with it. His father, Akhenaten, was a very grotesquely deformed man. He had the lower part of his body was a woman. He had woman's breasts. His face was very elongated. So he was not a very nice-looking man because of these, marrying so close like this. You're really messing up the bloodline. Tutankhamun didn't have a very long reign. He ascended the throne on his father's death, Akhenaten's death. Akhenaten was somewhat radical because Akhenaten wanted to place the one God belief in Egypt. He wanted all these other gods and all this other Isis, Osiris, Horus, Anubis, all this gone. We don't have this. We want one God. We want the sun god. He actually even moves the capital of Egypt from Memphis to Thebes. He moves it. He does this. So he's causing a big uproar of, thousands of years this is going on. You're eliminating the priesthood. You're doing all this, all these radical beliefs and everything like this. And Akhenaten and his head wife, Nefertiti, being the power couple that they were, they could do all this. They could do this stuff. So Akhenaten, we don't know if he was assassinated to just eliminate him and get him out of the picture. And then his son comes into power, and we think Tut may have been assassinated too to get him out of the way. We're not certain about that. But in any event, Akhenaten dies, and now Tutankhamun ascends to the throne as a boy of 8 years old. So 8 years old, he doesn't really have the knowledge to make the decisions of state, so he has people around him that are doing it for him till he gets a little older. And in actuality, had he lived longer, he would have been a very good ruler. He actually turned Egypt around and reversed his father's decisions and went back to the gods, back to the temples, back to the priesthood, moved the capital back to where it was. They think he may have been assassinated too because many people felt he would have carried on his father's beliefs and they wanted that eliminated. On Akhenaten's death, they almost totally obliterated his name. Every tomb, anything where his cartouche, whenever you see a hieroglyphics and they're written inside of an oval, a circle like that, that's the royal name. So that's why, like archaeologists, when they're excavating and they find something on a wall or something and they see this cartouche where it's circled, they know they have something royal here. It's a royal personage. So these were all eliminated. They almost wanted his name eliminated from Egyptian history. Nefertiti, too, for whatever reason, we don't know. Like I said, we know very, very little about her, part because of her status being a goddess, and part because her connection to Akhenaten, and they wanted that eliminated. Tut, we know, did marry. He was married to a sister or a half-sister that was 11 years old. They had 2 children. The couple had 2 children. Both were stillborn. In Tut's tomb, the mummified bodies of his children were placed with him. So there were no heirs. So on Tut's death, that ended the Thutmose dynasty, and it went to the next family, who would have been cousins or brother-in-laws or something of their dynasty. There's always somebody in line to take the next step up. But at 19 years of age, Tut died, and of what we don't really know. There's a large hole in his skull in the back. They think it may have been caused by the embalmers, although we're not certain about that, or they think he may have been assassinated too, hit on the head and killed. Another theory was a broken leg. We know later in his young life, he had a bad accident and broke a leg in hunting, and of course the leg would have been set by the royal physicians and done, but this is 3,000 years before we have antibiotics, before we have x-ray or anything, so I think an infection may have set in, gone through his body, and that killed him. We don't know exactly what he died from, and of course his genetic defects too could have contributed to the young death. So in any event, Tut dies, he's mummified, buried. You go through the process of burying the pharaoh. By Tut's time, we're no longer buried in pyramids, which are sitting ducks for tomb robbers. We are now buried in the Valley of the Kings. We have below ground burials now, and they're hidden. They're buried with sand, they're hidden away, and for a couple of thousand years, that's where Tut remains, until 1922. We come to the year 1922, we jump a couple of thousand years up in history, and maybe about 100 years back in history for us tonight. Well, not really 100, it's about, what is it, about 94 years now. 92 years? What is that? 1922 to 2014. In any event, it's almost 100 years, yeah. Yeah, 92, yeah. So 92 years back for us, and a British team, a small team consisting of Howard Carter, our archaeologist and chief keeper of Egyptian and antiquities at the British Museum, and his benefactor, Henry Carnarvon, and Henry Carnarvon's daughter, Lady Evelyn. I don't know what her last name was. Evelyn Carnarvon, I think it may have been Nesbitt. She was married. And they were benefactors. The Carnarvons were benefactors of Howard Carter. They financed his digs and his archaeology. They had a lot of faith in him. They had been there for some time. They had been digging in the Valley of the Kings, coming up empty, not really finding anything. A few things here, a few things there. Finally, the Carnarvon party leaves, and they decide to leave the Valley of the Kings, go back to Cairo, Egypt, back to civilization. And while they're gone, Howard Carter's party and his diggers find a step, just randomly digging, and they find a step out in the sand. They dig, they find another step, they find another step, they find another step. They go all the way down, they're finding the entrance to a tomb. They come to a wall. On the wall is a cartouche. It's the royal seal of Tutankamun. We have something here. This is it. This is the dig of a lifetime. So, what Howard Carter does was he's a very patient man, and we're very fortunate that Howard Carter was the man that found Tutankhamun's tomb, because he did everything the right way. He didn't go in and bust walls down and start doing this. Very patient. He had everything photographed, everything cataloged, meticulous. It took him about 3 years to empty that tomb out, the way he did it. So what he does is he has it buried back in, the secret kept, and he wires the Carnarvons and says, you have to come back here. We found something. You need to be here for this. So they're back. They open it up, and they find the archaeological find of the century. We find the intact tomb of a pharaoh that was not been robbed. A young pharaoh, Tutankhamun. We find his tomb intact just as it was, everything in there, everything in place, to the point where there were shrouds around the statues. Peacock feathers were in the fans. The feathers were still there. When you touched them, of course, untouched, they just fell apart, disintegrated right in front of you. But they had photographed all this. Like I said, it's very fortunate that all this was done this way. We also have the mummy of the pharaoh. On the downside was the embalmers that did King Tut overdid it. They put a little too much unguents and too much perfumes and preservatives on his mummy, and actually caused a decomposition faster than it should have been. Did any of you happen to, about 1975, when the Tut exhibit came through the museum, did you happen to see it? Okay, you're one of the lucky ones. It came through about 6 years ago too. It came through again, but there were things missing from it. One of them being the gold death mask. Absolutely beautiful. It was there in 1975. You'll never see that again. The Egyptian government put the kibosh on it. It's not allowed to leave the country. It stays in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's just too expensive to insure. How do you put a price on something like that? How do you insure it? You don't. So it stays, it's there in Egypt, and it will never leave. So if you happen to see it in 1975, which I did with my brother Ray, he took me down there, we went to go see it, you were lucky. You'll never see that again unless you go to Egypt to see it.
We were one of two groups that went to a private showing. It was the art history students and teachers from Northern Illinois University.
Yeah, now on
We had a
that,
private showing with just one other group.
Oh, yeah.
So we could really take a look at it very carefully, very closely. The craftsmanship of the ancient Egyptians, considering that people think that because it's so long ago that they were very primitive.
oh, not at all.
Look at their sculptures, look at the beautiful adornments, the things in their homes. Of course, Pharaoh gets the best.
Oh, the top of the line, of course, yeah.
If you think of that Pharaoh gets the best, what a wonderful, high-quality craftsmanship these things.
Oh, yeah, beyond all doubt. They were very skilled in jewelry making. Jewelry was very important to them. They loved jewelry. Women and men loved makeup. They wore that dark, cool. They still do. Arabic women still wear that dark eyeliner makeup around their eyes, something they carried over from thousands of years ago. They all wore that. They were very much into colored eyeshadows, rouges, lipstick. Women were very much into the cosmetics and that kind of thing, because it was a way of putting color into your life. Printing was not known yet. We didn't print, we didn't dye, so you wore white clothing, unbleached linen or white linen bleached. You didn't put a lot of color and print into it. Maybe you had some gold thread or something sewn into it a little bit that way, but your color was done through your makeup and dressing and jewelry.
But that was
Yeah.
also because of the heat.
Oh, yeah.
Because the white is a really easy color to wear in a...
Yeah, clothing was very simple. Kilts, men wore kilts and things. Women wore sheath dresses, that type of thing. Clothing was very simple. It wasn't that important to the Egyptians. Children often went naked. It wasn't that big of a thing to them. Seeing the body was not that important to the Egyptians. It was nothing that they would, ooh and ah over. It was no big deal to them. Anyway, what I was getting to with that was in that mask, in that gold mask, I don't know if you listened to the docent, I never forgot that. It's gold, and then there's blue. Gold and blue, striping in the headdress of King Tut. Well, it's not lapis. No, what it is, it's a glass. It's some sort of a glass that they made. It's so pure, you could see right through that glass. Even that thing was in that glass box, you could look through it, and you could see through those little glass bars and the headdress right through to the other side. Not a bubble in it or anything. It was so perfect. And for whatever reason, but not because of his death, they stopped making that glass. They just stopped for whatever reason. They don't know why they stopped making it. It took 500 years before they could find that formula again to start manufacturing that. That's just how secretive they were with their stuff. Like I say,
Also the faience, ceramics, that's a special formula to get that beautiful color.
Oh, yeah.
And the gloss.
so much of their stuff they didn't write down. So many things they didn't write down. They didn't write down like their embalming secrets, their medicine. A lot of their things were not recorded. Like I say, their writing was mostly religious text. It was the Book of the Dead, homage to the gods, prayers to the gods, to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh on his inception, when the Pharaoh becomes Pharaoh, he is Horus. He becomes Horus. So it's sort of like ours, God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. It's the same type of thing with this. Pharaoh and Horus are one and the same. That's how it becomes. This little statue here is a statue of Tutankamun wearing his headdress, like we were talking about with the blue and the gold. And if you see the whole, it's actually a painting done on a papyrus. What he has in his hands are jars of perfume. And he's handing them to his wife. Anaksunemun was his wife's name. And he's handing her jars of perfume. A very nice touch. Supposedly they were a very devoted couple. Being as young as he was at 19 years old, he probably would have had other wives. Maybe Anaksunemun would have been the head wife. But at 11 years of age, we know she did bear children because there were 2 stillborns. What happened to her status on his death, we don't know. We don't know whatever happened to her. On the death of the Pharaoh, his wife doesn't become the queen. It goes to the next, it's always the male. Always goes to the male. In rare instances, a woman would take to the throne and come to power, as in later on when Egypt was in decline and in the Roman period after they became conquered. Like when Cleopatra, that type of stuff comes around. But then they weren't really true pharaohs. They kind of bought their way into... Yeah, they were Greek. They were Macedonian. Yeah, and they actually bought their way into power in Egypt. So they weren't... There were actually 7 Cleopatras, and none of them looked like Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah, she was not a very For her age, she was considered beautiful, but today she would be considered very homely because they do have images of her on coins and things like that.
Saw that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, we find this King Tut's tomb in 1922, and it becomes the rage. All of a sudden, in the 1920s, Tut mania hits. Everything becomes Egyptian clothing, women's hairstyling. They wear that Cleopatra hairstyle, cut, squared off, cut. Women's headdresses, makeup, everything goes Egyptian. I was going to do this if we had a couple of kids here, but we don't have any kids, so we're not going to do it. I was going to do a contest where I would have you do a mummy rap here, but we don't have any children do it. We don't have any children do it. What I do have with me, though, is an old recording. It was made in 1922. Every record company did it. Everybody caught on to Tut mania, and it's called Old King Tut. That's what the recording is. We'll play that for you. It was made in 1922, just to capitalize on Tut mania. Tut became the man of the year. All of a sudden, somebody that had been asleep and a very insignificant pharaoh, and that everybody that knows anything about Egypt, about King Tut. So he, for him not having that much significance in his lifetime and his afterlife, which there is the Egyptian idea of the afterlife, his life has gone on.
Became truly immortal.
Yes, he did. Yeah. And that's what they aspired to. Every major company did a recording of this. The Edison Company did it. Victor, just happens to be the Columbia recording, all in the 1920s. Every major recording star. Sophie Tucker did it. Eddie Cantor did it. Al Jolson did it. Every star in the 1920s recorded King Tut. Sophie Tucker did a dirty version of it, though.
Say, mister, can you tell me where old King Tutankamun's tomb is? Why, tut, my boy. You mean King Tutankamun's tomb.
I get to rest my voice a little
Do you
bit.
know anything about him? Do I know anything about him? Well, just you listen to me. 3,000 years ago, in history we know, King Tutankamun ruled a mighty land. He ruled for many years, with lots of song and cheer. He made a record that will always stand. Why, they opened up his tomb the other day and jumped with glee. They learned a lot of ancient history. You know, King Tut, I'm carving safe beneath the tropic sky. King Tut was very wise. Now old King Tut was always gay. Cleopatra, she sat upon his knee. That's where she sat. The girls would dance for him, and every move a tree. They'd move and move and move and never move their feet. And 1,000 girls would dance each day with lots of hip, 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 hooray. You know, King Tut, King Tutty's day. His tomb instead of tears was full of souvenirs. He must have traveled.
Anybody watch Boardwalk Empire? Anybody a fan of Boardwalk Empire?
The gold and
On TV?
silverware.
They have a guy that does Eddie Cantor. Stefano or something is his name. And they were doing the song. Him and another girl. They were at a New Year's Eve party and they were doing Old King Tut. I saw, gosh, there's Old King Tut there.
The first love letter Adam wrote to Eve. In Old King Tut, I'm carving say the dancers then in style would even make the old thing smile. In Old King Tut, I'm carving say on the desert sands, Old King Tutty fans played while made it sway. They danced for Old King Tut, these moonlit skies so warm. They wore but happy smiles and were in perfect form. They danced for him both fat and thin. He didn't care a darn what shape they were in. You know, King Tut, King Tutty's day.
Am I supposed to stop in 2 minutes? Is that what it is? Okay. That's Old King Tut. Anyway, that's one rendition of it. This one was recorded by the Happiness Boys. Ernest Jones and Billy Hare, they were early recording artists, and they also became the Happiness Boys on early radio. They did. Both men were about the same size, the same weight. They married women with the same last name, and they both died just a couple of days apart from each other. So they were like early entertainers in the recording industry, kind of forgotten now. Not so well remembered like Eddie Cantor or Sophie Tucker or that. There's a few dirty renditions of the song, one sung by Sophie Tucker, of course, where it's instead of the first love letters wrote to Eve, it's the first fig leaf that Adam gave to Eve. So keeping with the Sophie Tucker tradition, there's different lyrics to it. Valentino as a chic, he wouldn't last a half a week in Old King Tut-Tut-Tutty's day. So there's different renditions of the song and different versions of it. And like I say, Tut-mania became the rage. Yeah. Okay, we're going to stop. After that, we're going to stop. We're going to take a little break. I'll get a drink of water. We'll come back and we'll talk to you a little bit about palmistry. Another thing brought on by the ancient Egyptians. Okay. Ready for palmistry yet? Now we are? Okay, we're back on www.windycityhometown.com. This is going to go on YouTube too, so we're going to do that. Everybody take a look at your palm, your right hand. Take a look at your right hand. What are the major lines you see there? How many do you see major ones that really stick out at you? 4. Okay, very good. 4. That's what you should see. You should see 2 horizontal and 2 vertical. And those are the majors. The 2 going across the top, the horizontals, are your head and your heart line, and the 2 coming down are your life and your fate. Those are like the heart and soul of palm reading. Everything else kind of stems off of those. There's other things too. And then there's all sorts of smaller lines and stuff that veer off and go this way and that way on it and everything like that. Contrary to popular belief is when someone has a short lifeline, it does not mean a short life. It just means the quality of life. It means different things about that. A lot of little marks. A lot of it is intuitive. A lot of it is knowing what to look for. There's things on there. And your lines do change all the time. Every couple of weeks, your lines in your hand do change. Yeah. So they change. You have people that do like readings kind of regularly, that go for palm readings. Myself, I don't like to do them that regular, and I don't do my own. Couple of years back, about 3 years ago, I was doing a radio show at Argo High School, Ward Radio, before I came to Windy City. And just before I started doing the show, there was a psychic that I went to go see that I had wanted to get a hold of for some time. And she sat me down. The first thing she did, she says, you read palms, don't you? I says, yes, I do. She's good. I want you to read mine. Because she says, when I read mine, it doesn't come out right. I said, I have the same problem. That's why I never look at my own. I said, someone else has to do it for me. We were originally going to do this by lotto and just do like 8 or 10 people. But since there's a small group, I'm just going to read all your hands. So whoever wants to come up first, come on up. We'll just go right down the line. And let me see what you got. Bring your chair up. I can't see it that far away. Okay, right hand. Every reader does them a little differently. Some readers will read palms. They'll read the right hand for men. They'll read the left hand for women. They'll read the right hand as telling your characteristics, personality traits. Left hand will tell your past. I read everything off the right hand. Depends, just a matter of preference how you want to do it. Okay. The left one. Yeah, that's you're going to sit on the left hand, huh? Okay. What this is telling me right here is you do have a little psychic ability yourself. It's something you're not exercising, though, that you're being held back from. The trouble why that is you're listening to too many other people. You're kind of easily persuaded and talked into other things.
Oh, not true.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, you're kind of talked into things a little easily. Yeah, yeah. Okay, your lifeline, long and well-defined, so that means life's good for you right now. You're kind of at a good place here. It wasn't always this way, though. For a long time, you kind of had a lot of insecurity about yourself. You didn't quite feel like you measured up to other people's standards. You've been shedding that now, and you're doing very well. So whatever you're doing, just keep going with that. You're doing real well with that. Good head for learning. Very good head for retaining information, keeping information, remembering things. A downside to this, though, is you remember a lot of bad. You're hanging on to bad things, and some of it you got to let go and leave it in the past where it belongs. You do remember that. Another downside to this is, too, you have an ear for gossip, which you love. You love hearing the news and love hearing that. Okay. Traveling for you is sort of a take it or leave it thing. When you go, you enjoy it, but it's not something like you actively pursue to go. You're like not a goer by nature. You're content with your surroundings and what you have there. Finances, you're okay with that. Family line is very important for you, and women in your family are the strong ones. You have a very good head for numbers, too, and figures. You're very good with numbers and figures. Let's see what else I'm going to tell you here. I don't want to get into real personal things here, which I don't really see.
It.
Yeah, no. That kind of stuff. Yeah, just the psychic ability, something you should be looking into. And fate. Fate for you is kind of veering. Your fate line's coming down, but then it's kind of veering off in a direction. It's connecting again. That usually indicates to me a change of employment or change of residence, like a move. Some sort of a move going on. This will be happening, usually the way yours is positioned and spot it's in, it's like a 6-month time frame. So there'll be some sort of a change going on there. Whatever it is, though, it's all positive. You have nothing negative here. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. Let's get to the next person.
very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. Okie doke. Let me take a look at your right hand. If you can take your ring off, put your ring on the other hand.
Sure.
Okay. If you can get it. If you can't get it, it's all right. It's just more of a distraction for me because I tend to, when someone has a ring on, I tend to always look at the gold and see that, and I miss other things. Okay. You have the hands of a learner right off the bat, just the way the shape of your hand, your fingers, the way they're shaped, and the lines in your fingers. The way these lines are all, you got a lot of vertical lines, that means you are a person also very good with numbers and figures, and very good with knowledge in school. I don't know how high you went in your education, but whatever it wasn't high enough for you because you have the ability to go further. Yeah, whatever you did, yeah. Fate line for you is almost non-existent. It's almost not there. Sometimes this is the case. Some people don't have some of these lines, and some people have a hand that's very crowded. They have a lot of lines on it. Life for you is very short and it's center placed. You do have a little fork at the end, and that tells me you're a person that likes to wander and go. You don't like to sit in one spot too long. No moss grows under your feet. For a long time you had to sit home and you had to do that, and now you're cut loose and you're doing very well with it. You're enjoying it. You're at a good point in life now where you're enjoying things that in the past you could not enjoy. You had some restrictions with that. A very good-hearted person, your heart line's telling me that. Very good, very giving. The downside to this is sometimes, though, you get taken advantage of. So sometimes know when to say no. Be good and be nice to people. Listen to their troubles and help where you can, but don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of, because in the past that's happened to you a few times. Okay. A strong bond in the family, very strong family line. Family important to you. Friendship, friends and family, extremely important to you. Acceptance by friends, acceptance by family, and you have that. People like you a lot and cling to you. Children like you. I don't know what you did in life, or if you're still working what you do, but you would have been well suited as teacher and being around children. Animal lover too. Was there some bad experience though with an animal? Something that happened with an animal that was like a bad experience you had that you can think of? All right, this might be something that's going to happen. It's something that kind of scared you or freaked you out, like maybe it could be something, a dog startled you or something startled you, and what's going to happen with that is animals are going to pick up on this, and then you're not going to quite have that same relationship because they can sense this, that you're afraid of it. So this, since you can't recall it, this might be something that's coming up for you.
I go to the dog park every morning.
Oh, okay. So you're around them. So there's be something kind of coming up with that, but nothing to worry about. I don't want to frighten you with that, not to scare with that. Kind of a good period of health here. Nothing really major going on with that. You're doing well with that, and I don't see any major changes for you. You are going to reconnect, though. This is kind of an interesting one. Someone that you were very, very close with for a long time, you were very close with, and you kind of lost contact, you're going to be reconnecting. This may actually be through a trip, and then it's going to be a lifelong bond now. It's going to be very nice. A very nice thing for you. So it's somebody that's a good thing, very positive. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that, and let's get to the next person.
This is like the lines on the left are different than the
It's
right.
a matter of preference. Like I said, every reader does them differently. I spent about 4 hours with a reader down in New Orleans one time. It was supposed to be like an hour session, and we just had such a good time. It was like one of those rainy New Orleans afternoons. I was with him for 4 hours, and he gave me so many pointers and tips and everything. And I asked him that, and he said, it's a matter of preference how you read it. Because I do everything off one hand. That's fine. Some readers do it off both. Some readers do it off one. It's however you want to do it. He says, you're really kind of good at this, and you should be doing it more than you do. So he gave me a lot of confidence with that. And my trouble was, when I started doing this, I didn't think anybody was interested in it. I was wrong.
But I mean, would one contradict the other?
No, not at all. No. It's just a matter of the way you do it. Okay. You're another one, too. You have what they call, you have a crowded hand, like I was talking about before. You're chain linked, too. Oh, boy, I got some things to tell you. Yeah. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and everything's going in different directions. Okay. You've got a family chain here, and I hope I'm not getting too personal about this, but there's some kind of a rift going on with somebody in the family. You're at odds with somebody. There's something going on there. It's a disagreement. It's kind of been going on for a while, and I can tell you this. The person that this is going on with wants it to end, but they're waiting for you to make the first move. I can tell you that. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
The person has passed away.
Okay,
That makes
well,
sense.
that would be the disconnection, because they were kind of waiting for you to make the move on this, but I guess it's over with. This might be something going on with somebody else. I'm not certain about that. You have a very crowded hand. You got lines going in all directions. That indicates a person that has a hard time making a decision. And not necessarily, it's not a bad thing. It's just you just have a hard time making up your mind with things. And even after you do it, it could be something simple like buying clothes. You'd be the person that would buy it, bring it home, and say, "What did I buy this for? I don't like it. I'm bringing it back to Kmart tomorrow." Those kind of things like that with decisions. You also have the cross in between your heart and head. That's an indication of a person with psychic ability too. a mothering intuition, very strong with you, extremely strong. So you should start doing that, following your intuitions. If your heart and your mind starts telling you something, start listening to it, because you've got the intuition and the ability there. Okay, fate for you is veering in different directions, so that means you never really quite found your niche in life. In the back of your head, you've always had something you wanted to do, something you've always wanted to do for years. You say, I always wanted to try doing this, I always wanted to go to school for this or whatever, and you should do this. Even if you don't do this like as a money-making venture, just for personal satisfaction, it'd be something you'd be very good at. You'd excel at this, and something you always wanted to do. You should go for it. What else can I tell you here? Okay, this is about your family. Were there 3 brothers and sisters?
One brother.
That's it? Just one? Only one? Because you got 3 lines here, and these are not your family lines. I'm seeing 3. Any losses in the family that you know of? And these could be early losses, like mother and father miscarried or something like that.
A sister.
Okay.
Before I was born.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I'm definitely seeing that there's 3 here. So there's one, well, of course, the one is a separation. That would be the death. That's a big separation. When you see a separation that big, it usually indicates death, or they just live really far away. But there is one that you're kind of close with. You're a little more closer with that one than you are with the other. I should say that, but that would be the one that's not here anymore. It's kind of a strange thing that these others are popping up like that, but you would know your family. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay, heart. Same thing too with you. You're a very good-hearted person, although you don't always come across that way. First impressions with you are kind of difficult. You don't always make the best of first impressions with people. It takes people a little while to warm up to you. And then when they do, oh no, she's a sweetheart, very nice person, very good. That's who you are. It's not a bad thing. That's your personality. What else can I tell you here? Okay, money. You're kind of careful with money now. This wasn't the case for a while. Money was going through your hands very easily. It was slipping through real easy. You're being a little more careful with it now, and you're finding that's working out to your benefit. There's something going on here too with a shared piece of property, something that you own with someone else. This could actually be a piece of real estate, or it could be a car or something like that that you own. They might be confronting you to buy you out on their share of this thing, but kind of stick to your guns. Don't let it go, because you might be making a little more money on this. They have like a little more inside information on it than you know about. Is this making any sense to you?
Kind of in a roundabout way.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of watch out. Selling this, kind of hold out, because it'll be a little more profitable to you. Let's see. I'll leave you go with that. You're another one too, with numbers and figures, and retaining information too. You're another one, like an elephant's mind. You don't forget. You remember things.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't forget.
Yeah, you don't. The downside to that though too is you remember a lot of the negatives. Yeah, and that's a downside too. Okay, we're going to leave you with that. I hope that made sense to you. And some of that was a little different. Okay, who's the next one? Okay, let's take a look at what you got on your right hand. Let's see what you got going. Okay, right off the bat, very inquisitive mind, learning. You take nothing for face value. You want to have proof of everything. You want to know the facts to everything. Very good trait. Very nice trait to have. The only trouble with this is sometimes it interferes with friendships and with relationships with people, because you really analyze them a lot. It's like you really pick your friends carefully. So it's kind of good thing, bad thing. Sometimes just take people for what they are and enjoy it that way, and don't overanalyze it. Very good-natured person, very good-natured, very easygoing that way, easy to get along with. Friendships extremely important to you. Family circle, very important, having them around. And you've got that. You've got a real nice circle of people around you that really care for you and watch out for you, that kind of thing like that. Very good for you. You're another one too. Real good head for information. You have some artistic ability. You do. You have like a flair for color and matching things like that. Something you're not exercising, but you do have that. Something that you're not using. You're again too another strong bond in the family circle. And women are the strong ones in the family. Women a lot of times are the breadwinner. They're the ones that make the important decisions in the family like that. Nice traits. Very memorable. Children too seem to be around you. There's 2 children in particular that I'm seeing on this that look up to you as like a mentor. So whatever you're doing when you're around them, you're doing the right thing, because you're a very positive model for them. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of money. This is a nice one. Everybody wants to know about money, and they want to know about romance. There's going to be like a little piece of money popping into the picture for you. Not the lottery or anything like this, but it's going to be kind of unexpected. But there's a downside to this. It's going to be a two-way thing. Part of this money is going to be used for your advantage. The other part's going to be not so good. You're going to invest this or borrow it to somebody or something like that, and it's going to be lost. So just be a little careful of that. It's kind of like a warning if you see a little windfall come your way. And with that, I'm going to leave you. And I hope that made sense to you. Okie doke. All righty, let's see what you got going on. Did you live in a rural area at one time?
No.
No, you never did? Because you're around animals. No, there's animals like all the time. Yeah. So you're definitely an animal lover, because I'm seeing, that's why I thought you would have lived on a farm or something, because there's like animals all the time around you. And you have a positive relationship with animals and children both. Very good thing. Right at the moment, there's something that's clouding your head. You're not thinking like the normally you're a very good reasoner and think your way through things, but something right now, like in the last couple of weeks, kind of came into the picture, and it's causing a block. So be careful, like in the next couple of weeks, of any important decisions, because you're just not thinking and reasoning the way you normally did. This is going to pass through, and it's going to be gone, and then you'll be back on track again. But just for the time being, just kind of watch out for it. Be a little aware of that. You're kind of in a good spot right now with life and with things. Life, you're in a good spot. You're enjoying life. Things are going well. Things are well with the family. Kind of a nice, satisfying time for you. It's good. No real bad health issues. Nothing going on with that. Nothing life-threatening. There was something that you had one time, though. You had some sort of an ailment. This could be something that reoccurs, but it's a treatable thing. It's something that can be taken care of, so not to worry about. But it might be something that pops up for you. No big deal about this. Never a smoker?
Never.
Because this thing looks to me like it might have been something respiratory. That's what I can tell you about that. You're another one, too. You like to move around and travel and go to different places and see different things. You don't like to sit still too long.
No.
You're a wanderer by nature. You like doing that. Fate and life are crossing one over the other. That's these two right here. That's the way that's going. Usually that indicates a change, and in many cases that indicates a change of residence or a change in transportation. When I say change in transportation, that has a double meaning too. It could mean like a new vehicle or a change in the route. Like you'll be changing the way you're going. I think that's what it's going to mean for you. Whatever way you're traveling, you're going to be doing something differently, but it's going to work out very nicely for you. It's going to be something you enjoy doing, and it's going to be easier. Like, an easier way of getting around. Let me try to do this quickly here, because we've got some more people to do. Okay, I think I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you, Bob.
You're very welcome. I hope that made sense. Yeah, I don't either. I don't even know how it works. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, you're a person that makes up your mind. You make your mind up and you stick to your decisions and you hold your guns. The downside with this for you is sometimes, even though you're wrong, you don't back down. You have that little stubborn streak.
Yep.
But you're definitely a person that likes to make up their mind, and that's it. You don't listen to anybody else. You make up your mind for yourself. A nice trait to have. You don't take any guff from anybody else, so to speak. Right here, things are a little jumbled for you. So this means there's going to be changes in life. This could be changes in residence, changes in employment, a new job. Definitely there's something coming up for you, though, because you got a lot of things jumbled here, and you too are a wanderer by nature. You like to go. You don't like to sit in one spot too long at all. You like to bum around. You like to go places. You do have some psychic ability yourself too. Same thing. A few people tonight have had that one. You got that? Something you need to start looking a little more seriously. Another one too, with the headline here. Something has been tugging both at your heart and your head, like with the emotions. There's something going on there. Don't dwell too much on this and worry too much. It's kind of as fast as this came into the picture for you, it's going to be leaving, and then not to worry too much about that. You're another one too. Numbers and figures, very good with that. Good head with figures and numbers. Let's see what else I can tell you down here. Family circle, very important thing for you with the family. Important. Family likes to tell you troubles. People like to come to you with their problems and stuff. Probably because of your nature. They know, like, making up your mind and sticking to your guns. They like to come to you with problems. Friends do the same thing. People like to tell you their things. They like to tell you stuff like that, and it's okay. You like hearing it, and you're a good one to tell this to because you're there to listen. There again, though, know when to turn it off and not overburden yourself with this, because this might be kind of the trouble that's going on here. What's clouding your head, and that you may actually be worrying about somebody else's problems, and it's affecting your thinking and your mindset right now. Has this little white mark always been there, or is that something that's, no, it hasn't? Nothing that you notice? Okay, this is kind of like a good luck spot for you, to be located in the center of the palm at that location. So that's a good luck thing. You're kind of like one of those persons born with a horseshoe. Things may not start out working out good for you, but some way or another, they turn around, and they always work out to your advantage. Nice trait to have. Very nice thing to have here. Not seeing any unusual wealth or anything coming into the picture with this, but by the same token, I'm not seeing you wanting for anything. So needs and wants and everything have always been met for you, and that's going to continue. That's going to be going good. That's a nice thing to have. Let me see what else I can tell you here that I would like to, that I might be missing. I think that's good. I'm going to leave you with that.
Okay.
Hope that made
Thank you.
sense. Yeah.
For the
Okay, just give us your name.
Oh, I'm Kelly.
Kelly, there you go, okay. Okay, let's see what you've got. You're another one too. To shape your hands, slender shape, slender fingers, hands of a learner, definitely. You still in school? No? Whatever you did, you didn't pursue education far enough because you've got the head for learning. You could have gone on higher and you got the head for that. You tend to be a dreamer by nature. A dreamer and fantasizer, always looking for the things that are just out of reach. You're another one too. Someone else tonight had that one. You've had this idea always in the back burner of your mind, something you've always wanted to do, you've always wanted to try doing, and you need to take a stab at this and don't put it off because it's going to be something you're going to like and you're going to be successful. It's going to work out nicely for you. With you too, it seems like there's going to be a career change. I don't know what you do for a living or if you're working, but there's going to be something else happening with that. You're going to be very happy. You're going to be very satisfied with it. Something's going to come into the picture for you. You're going to like it. There are some trips coming up for you. You do have a couple things coming up in the next couple of months. A lot of people do because the summer months are coming. Yours is going to be a connecting trip. I don't know if you're going to see family, but you're going to be bumping into some people that you haven't seen. This is another one somebody had earlier too. People that you haven't seen in some while, you're going to be reconnecting with, and then this is going to be a connection that's going to last for a while. It's going to stick with you. So this is a nice positive thing. You're another one too, with children and animals like you. You have a good relationship with them. I don't know if you like them back, but they like you.
Having my third.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we can tell you here. No health issues, nothing I'm seeing with that. And nothing going on with that. Life for you starts off very light and then it's getting dark. That indicates to me that at one point things changed for you. There was like a drastic change. Like life was kind of going in one direction, you had things set. Sometimes this indicates a marriage or a separation. It's a big change. Whatever it was something big. But the place you're at now is better than where you were. So things are actually working out nice for you. So this is good. This is a good thing to have. You're very concerned. You're a person very much concerned with outside appearance and with impressions on others. And you do. You make a real nice impression, especially with interviews and with talking to people. People warm up to you very easily, and you make nice impressions. People remember you. That's a very nice trait to have, especially with employers. Like when you're looking for a job like that, you're a person they remember. Out of maybe 100 people, they'll remember you. Very nice trait. Okay, anything else that would stick out here and jump at me? I'm going to leave you with that. Hope it made sense. Yeah. Okay, who's the next one? See, the palm reading takes a long time. That's when you threw that in. I was like, oh. Because it's a long process. Okay, you're another one too with the hand that's crowded, which means you're a person like a jack of all trades and master of none. You have a lot of interests in a lot of different things. Yeah. You have a lot of interests.
That's a polite way of saying I don't do anything right.
No. That doesn't mean that at all. It's just you have a lot of interests, but nothing that you ever really pursue seriously, like enough in one field. But it's okay. I mean, you can be varied in your things. You do a lot of different things. You have a lot of different. You go in different directions.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of things right now. A lot of lines and things are pointing on your fate line. So that means there's going to be changes in your fate. Your fate's not too well defined for you. There's going to be some changes. Usually, again, this indicates a physical move, like a change of residence or a change of position, change of jobs, that type of thing, or a lot of times a step up in the job you're doing. So there's going to be something coming up for you, definitely, in one of those areas. Hands down about that. I'm real certain about that. Your lifeline, there's a little bit of mumbo-jumbo up at the top of your lifeline, so that means something kind of came into the picture that's causing a little disturbance in what was a lot of harmony and peace, and something right now popped into the picture that's causing some disturbance there. This is another one too. Don't lose any sleep and dwell too much on this, because you kind of tend to be a worrier by nature.
Got that right.
Yeah. This is going to kind of go through as fast as it kind of came into the picture, and it'll be taken care of, so don't worry too much about that. Kind of a weird one too. There's like a legal matter, a legal thing coming up, and this could be something simple like a parking ticket. You already know what this is. Okay, there's a legal thing coming up here. Get this taken care of as soon as you can and get it out of the way, because this is something that looks like it's going to be haunting you for a while. So get this out of your way as soon as you can.
That's happening.
Okay. Okay, Dad, I'm going to leave you with. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So that made sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-oh, the boss is coming here.
No, I'm not the boss. She's the boss.
Yeah, there was a change of hands here. Okay. Let's see what's going on with you here. Okay. All right. Oh, name.
I'm Jean.
Jean. Jean McGuire.
Yes.
Okie doke. Let's see what we got going on for you. Lifeline, very short, only runs into the middle of your hand here. It means to me, like I say, that does not mean a short life at all. What that means is the quality of life. There's something going on that you're not fulfilling your dreams in life. You're doing too much for other people and not enough for yourself. So start reversing the role there. Think a little more of yourself. It's time that you started doing this. Everybody's taken care of. Don't worry about them. Start thinking of Jean now and do that. Okay, you tend to be a spontaneous person with purchasing and buying stuff. You buy things real easy. Money goes through your hands easily. You buy things. I'd like to be the guy standing behind the counter at Macy's selling jewelry. Because you do. You buy spontaneous stuff like that. You do that. Because now you have the means to do it. You're free to do that. But, how can I say this? What you're doing for that is you're looking to be satisfied, but it's really not. It's not like meeting the need for you to, like something more. And you might be finding this out yourself. Now that you have this time, now that you're in retirement and you have this time, you're looking for something to fulfill that time and fill that void. And you will. It's going to fall into place. You tend to be a very resourceful person, and you use the things around you and people. You network a lot with people. You know a lot of people in good places and stuff like that. And I believe there's going to be a contact coming up for you that's going to lead to some sort of a position. It may be a volunteer position, maybe something that actually paid. But in any event, it's going to work out to your advantage. You're going to be very satisfied with that. And it's going to be a nice thing for you. Very good-hearted person. Like you say, concerned with others, that kind of stuff. And start turning that around a little bit and doing things for yourself. And not so much now for family. They're all taken care of. So start looking that way. Okay, you got some trips coming up too. You're going to be doing some traveling. This traveling is going to make an impression on you, almost to the point where you're going to say, gee, I'd really like to live there. You might be considering a move. So wherever you're going, you're going to be real happy with that. It's going to really leave a nice impression on you. And this might be something that's going to work out for you. What else can I tell you here? There's going to be some money also popping into your picture. There again, not a big fortune here. It's going to be a little unexpected wave of money coming in, like through an inheritance. Again, somebody had this earlier, like a shared property, something shared with somebody else, and it's going to come. But it's going to, for you, it's going to come at a time when you're actually going to need that, and it's going to work out nice. You won't be dipping into the savings or anything. You use this, so that's kind of a good thing. This will be coming up in a couple of months for you. And Jean, I think I'm going to leave you with that.
Okay.
Hope it made sense.
Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okie doke. Let's see
Hello
what you
again,
got. Hi
Bob.
there. Yes.
Hi, this is Christine.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Okay.
everyone.
You're another one too. Interest in a lot of fields. Open to things. You're very, very receptive to stuff. A lot of interest in a lot of stuff, but nothing that you ever pursue seriously in any one field. You need to kind of find your niche, like what you want to do, and then you'll excel at that when you put your mind to it. This tends to be with wandering and daydreaming. You had this problem all through school too. You can do good work when you focus, when you do it, but you tend to kind of wander and go in different directions. But when you do focus on something, you can do good, and that's what you're going to have to do here. You're going to find like your little niche in life, something that you like, and go with that, and then you're going to excel at it. That's going to be a nice thing.
Actually, I've done a lot of different things, but I get bored with it. Or circumstances change and I move on.
Sure, okay. Head. Very good head on your shoulder. Head for reasoning, head for thinking, that kind of stuff like that. There again, too, though, something right now is clouding. Like clouding the normal reasoning, the pattern, the normal way you would think. So just be careful next couple weeks. Not a long time, but just next couple weeks, hold off of anything important. Like buying a car, changing a residence, any kind of an important thing. Because you might be doing the wrong thing and then say, gee, what did I do this for? I don't even like the color black. Why did I do that? So just one of those type of things. The family circle with you is another thing that's important. And there again, though, there's a little rift going on there with somebody in the family. There's something going on there. Not a serious thing. It's funny with these things when you see this pop up, like with family, when somebody's having an argument. A lot of times it's something, they don't even know what they're arguing about, but they just know they're just mad at each other. And you got the same thing going on here. It's going to end. It'll be ending and things will be going that way. But the trouble is, you're kind of stubborn on this and the other person's kind of stubborn on this. But you're going to be meeting on a happy ground, and it's going to be taken care of and out of the picture. And it's a wonderful thing. It's going to be actually wonderful for everything. The whole circle of the family is going to be nice about this. It's going to
I'm delighted about that.
Yeah, that's going to be good. That's going to be taken care of, and it's going to bring the whole family together. Because this is something that's actually kind of causing a dissension in the ranks, like with everybody. Not to get too personal about it, but
You can get personal.
yeah, okay. Let's see what else I can tell you here. Money for you, when you have it, you blow it. It goes real fast. Yeah,
It's called bills.
Yeah, well, you need to be a little more careful with that. Take care of the bills, and then also, too, money on frivolous stuff. You got to be a little careful with that. You're going to be needing some money coming up in the next couple of months in a time frame here. Like, I'm going to say this is April. I'll say like midsummer. I'll give you a time frame on this. You might have a little bit of a struggle there. I'll let you in on that. So you might have some time where it's kind of tough, but the needs are going to be met. It'll be met. It'll be taken care of. But you just may have a bit of time there where you go through a little bit of hardship. But nothing, not to frighten you with, but just to let you know what's coming. And this may be something with a car repair or a home repair, some of the normal things. But anyway, I see that coming up for you. Not to worry about it. Health-wise, we're not doing too bad here. You haven't been to a dentist in a while, though.
I was about a month ago.
Okay, you need to go. There's something going on with dental, because I'm seeing it here.
Mm.
So there's something going on here that you need to check. That's funny. Sometimes dental and doctor things do pop up, and on yours
Could
I'm
it be
seeing
my knee instead? No?
Well, knee and teeth are far off. I don't think that's what it is. Yeah. But there's just something going on there that needs to get checked. Not a serious thing. You have it looked at and it's done. And what else can I tell you here? The family thing we covered, that was a good one. The dental thing, I see. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Okay, who do we got next? She's doing her homework as she sits there. Look at that.
I was taking notes for her.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we're the best buds. We take notes for each other.
That's a good thing to do, because, you forget. A lot of times you forget, because sometimes when you do it, like if I did a real reading, like where it's a long reading, you give a lot of information in a very short time, and you tend to forget a lot of that stuff.
I'm Sue.
I've seen you before, too.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. You are looking for romance in the wrong places. That I can tell you. There's somebody that you got your eye on, you've had it on for a long time. This is not going to be the person for you. There's going to be another person pop into the picture for you. That's going to work out very nicely. You're going to be very happy with that. This is okay for a friendship, and it might actually be something that's going to continue as a friendship, but it's not what you're expecting out of it. That's going to come from someone else, and it's going to come a little later on, and you're going to be very happy with that. That much I can tell you. Very good thing. You, my dear, have a very strong desire to go, to travel, to run, to see things. Wanderlust is in your blood. The reason you have this so much is you're trying to escape. What you're doing is you're trying to escape problems by going. Rather than face things head on, I can tell you that, you're looking to run away from them. It's going to be taken care of, though, because there's going to be some things coming up in your life you're going to meet head on and get them taken care of, and you're going to be very happy with that, and you'll be at peace, I can tell you that. But you've got a few things going on here. You, too, have a legal thing going on. There's some kind of a legal matter going on. This may not be you personally, but it may be somebody in the family there. Try to get this taken care of, same thing, and get it out of the way, because this might be something that's going to come back and haunt you, because you tend to procrastinate on things and put them off. This, I don't think you should. You should get this kind of taken care of and get it out of the way. Making any sense to you? No, it's not? Okay. Okay, it will. Trust me on this. Yeah. Heart. The heart line, too. There's something tugging at your emotion. This may be tied in with the relationship thing here. It's causing a little rift in your heart, like with the emotions. There's something tugging there. But it also is passing through. It's not something that's going to stick around for a long time. Just kind of bear with this heartache or with this emotion for the time being. It's going to pass through, be taken care of, and then you'll be fine. You'll be back on track again. What else can I tell you here? Finances and that. You're okay. The needs are met and anything. I don't see like any unusual wealth coming your way. People always look for money and romance. Decision making, dear, you're all right on that. You kind of make up your mind and you stick with it and that. I can tell you this though, like about friendships. You have a lot of friends and a lot of people around you, but there are a couple that, how could I say this? They're not necessarily the best suited for you. You may know who these are. They're like friends in front of your face, but behind your back, they're not such good people. They might be like saying some things and doing some things about you that maybe not in your best interest. You may or may not know who they are, but just kind of be aware of that. They're in front of your face, they're kind of like almost two-faced. They're acting like they're an ally of yours, but behind your back, not so good. Not that they're doing any bodily harm or that, but it's almost kind of stemming from a jealousy. They're a little envious of you for whatever reason. Kind of a strange thing. I see it there, I got to tell you. You kind of had a weird one here. Not really negatives, but not necessarily some of the best things that I like to tell people. But I see them there, and I let you know about it. Okay, with that, I'm going to let you go. I know some of that stuff you had was a little weird. Yeah, you had some weird things on yours. Some of that's going to make sense to you a little later on, trust me. Yeah. Okay, that's about what we've got for this. We're going to do a couple of more readings off camera here because we got some people that don't want to be on. Thank you all for coming. This was a joy and a pleasure. Listen to us on the Windy City Network. Watch for us on Comcast. This will be up on Comcast. Gosh, what else can we say here? If you like these kind of presentations, like I say, Tuesday I'll be over at Orland Park Library, not too far from here. We were talking on Titanic, so I'd like to see you all come out for that one there. They've got a big lecture room down there. And if you like this presentation with the Egyptology and this, I'll be doing the same presentation next month at the May 19th at the Bridgeview Library. We'll be over there doing that. We've done a few things there with them too. We taped one of our presentations over there. Matter of fact, that got us the first Comcast deal. We did that, and then Comcast saw that. They were impressed with it, so they did that to us. So we'll be doing that there, but I changed around a little bit because we don't want to do the exactly same presentation that we do here, do there. So we'll be doing that. Listen to us on Windy City, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.